Hi there, I'm Teri Hart, and welcome to this week's The Heart of It All. It is a super special week. Our first celebrity interview. One of our most recognizable and funniest Canadian comedians joins us today to talk about helping to care for his aging dad, supporting a caregiving charity, and finding the funny through it all. He's got a new Netflix special out. It's called Funny You Should Say That. And of course, it's Gerry Dee. Hey there, if you've been with me for a while, you know that The Heart of It All is a podcast about the realities of caregiving. And that often is pretty serious, and sometimes it's even sad. This week, we're being reminded of how important it is to keep our sense of humors intact, even if some of the things we're laughing at are, well, pretty dark. Gerry Dee recently posted a really touching video in support of Caremakers Foundation, recognizing the 8 million Canadians who are caregiving. Gerry also has a brand new Netflix special, Funny You Should Say That, where he talks about caregiving with a very Gerry Dee lens. Host of Family Feud Canada, Gerry Dee has been making audiences laugh for 2 decades. He's most familiar as the star, co-creator, and showrunner for the CBC hit sitcom Mr. D. And Dee, who was a private school teacher for 9 years before giving it up for comedy, became the first Canadian in 27 years to win the prestigious San Francisco International Comedy Competition. He was also a finalist on NBC's Last Comic Standing, which was the highest finish by a Canadian in the history of the show. Gerry Dee, welcome to The Heart of It All, our first celebrity guest on The Heart of It All.
Wow, that's an honor. Thank you.
This is such a big deal for you. So much of your comedy tends to come from a personal place, your own experience. How does Funny You Should Say That stick with that brand of comedy for you, Gerry?
It's really just how I write. I think it's so personified that I think of stories in my life that I can try to find the humor in and try to do my best to lighten the mood of it, and address things that we're all probably aware of as human beings, having family members and friends. And I used to talk a lot about being a teacher. Now I've drifted into more of my own life and kids and marriage and things we a lot of us can relate to.
Yeah, you do talk a lot about your wife and your kids and also your siblings and your dad. Do you get permission from them? Do you run these things by them?
My wife, yes. My kids, no. My siblings, I don't have a lot of material on them, and it would be positive if I did. My dad, no, he would, even though, like, he's 92, but it would just be a pointless discussion because his humor is very different now than mine. And um he can laugh, he can laugh at himself. He knows he's aging. He knows he's older. A couple weeks ago, he said, I think I wouldn't mind going to Myrtle Beach for the weekend. And I'm like, you could hardly walk, Dad. Like, really? And he just started laughing, that, yeah, what am I thinking? But, I don't know what it's like to be that age, obviously. And I know it's very tough for the families, but for my dad, it's a lonely existence at times. So the fact he still has a sense of humor, which is probably where I get mine from, is fun.
I want to talk about your dad because you do talk about him in the special. He's 92 years old and you talk about his memory loss. And where are you and your siblings at in terms of caregiving for your dad?
Yeah, I mean, my brother lives a little further. My sister's also, like, she's out in sort of towards Oakville. She's kind of, I would say, the primary of the three of us for sure. She does the most sort of looking after. We've tried to move him out, but he's well aware and he doesn't want to. And he just has his day, and he's walking's diminishing a bit, but he's a very stubborn Scottish man, and he knows what he wants, and he doesn't want help, and he doesn't want a lot of inconvenience. And he's been like that his whole life. So, obviously I'm in a very busy stage of my life with 3 kids that are busy, but I try to go over when I can and help out where I can. But I'd credit my sister more for handling a lot of his needs as far as the little things. But he's still moving around pretty good. His mind's good, and he won't leave. We've tried, and we've tried to get him all the help, and he doesn't want any help. So we've just accepted it.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Like sometimes the resistance is harder than the recognition of the need of help.
I think there's an embarrassment factor for aging people that they don't want to admit they can't do stuff for themselves, and I think that's got to be tough for anyone. Like even me, I used to be able to do a lot more things that I can't do now, and it's kind of like, what? I can't climb a fence, but and I can't. I'd get stuck. But it's different for 92-year-old. There's little things, he can't cook for himself, and I think that's hard on that age. The loneliness of it that we're all aware of is as we go through it. And my mom and dad left Scotland in the early 60s and never saw their parents again. Like, it's a different generation, whereas we're in a generation where we are still, looking after our parents more. I think more of his perspective, it's got to be tough for him. I don't look at it as it's tough for us, because my life goes on. And, as a parent, I think our job is to just do our part and let our kids' lives. And I'm going through that with my daughter now. She's 18. She's off to college. I found it very sad when she left, but that's my job. My job is to guide her to be ready for her life.
Yeah, you're supposed to raise good adults, not keep them as children, is what I understand. It's funny you bring up I can't climb a fence. You have that very funny part in, funny you should say that about your dad in the balcony in the 5th floor. I laughed very, very hard at that.
It's funny. Like, he used to always say, there's two things my dad, I think, would always say. One was, I would never live above the 5th floor because I can't jump if there's a fire. And I don't know if he thought in his mind I probably survive a 5th floor jump, but he wouldn't. And the other thing he said, by probably when he was 50, 55 and older, every Christmas, well, this could be our last one together. I'm like, it was the most depressing thing ever. Like, he said, this could be our last Christmas. So we're 40 years later. Now, my mom died in 2015. So that was our last Christmas together, which is what he meant. But he puts this somber mood in it, like it's Christmas. And, so I've learned to try to not, but I do pick up a little of that. Like, I'm aware of lasts. This is my last time taking my daughter to volleyball. Like, this is my last time, whatever. So I probably picked up some of that from him, but it's pretty funny. He does it. He did it every year.
You just posted that volleyball dad picture of your
Yeah.
delightful daughter today.
That was one daughter, and my other daughters, I've posted her plenty as she's at university. She plays for Duke, and my son. So the three of them are all playing volleyball.
It's interesting, Jerry. I'm wondering, you talk about these things with your dad and you're able to find the funny in it, you're able to find the joke in it. Have you always been able to do that? Like when he was that 54-year-old and saying, "Oh, this is might be our last Christmas together." Were you the one making a joke and seeing the funny in that then?
My brother and sister are just as funny, or funnier. I'm the youngest, so I think we're all pretty similar. I just took a chance to transfer it to a public audience and tweak it. But, we all have a pretty similar sense of humor. And I think my brother is pretty quick too. And so is my sister. It could have been any of us. We all kind of are on the same page. Um, you know, my sister and brother will find things funny that I do automatically. And that's kind of comes from my mom and dad.
So can you imagine them laughing at the joke in Funny You Should Say That when you say, "My advice to you if you have older parents is to live furthest from your siblings"?
Well, my sister won't laugh because she does live the furthest and she does the most. So I don't think she'll laugh at it. She'll be like, I do live the furthest and I do the most. Um, but I think that joke is more, if my dad doesn't answer his phone, the three of us will be in a chat. Like, have you talked to him? Have you talked to him? Have you talked to him? I live the closest then, so I'll be the one to go check to see if he's alive, which is not a fun visit. And thankfully he still is. But I mean, that's life. One day he won't be. But when I talk about living the furthest, that's what I'm referring to, because it's whoever's the closest has to go check if he's alive, which is a very horrible experience every time.
It's rather anxiety inducing, I would think.
Yeah. And he doesn't answer his phone and he just forgets and he's like, oh, I was just sleeping. Like it's, I've literally broken into his house and broken into his condo and held my hand over his mouth, see if he was breathing, but he was sleeping because, it's the stage we're at in life. We're thankful. I'm thankful I had my parents as long as I have. I would like to have had my mom longer, but there's people I know that lost their dad at 10, 11, their mom. Like, what do I have to complain about? We're not living forever. So I try to look at it very practically in that sense. And even my mom, 78, she had a tough last 5 years with dementia and Alzheimer's. But, I had my mom in my life for the big moments of my life. And I feel lucky.
I started this, Gerry, because I lost my dad August 1st of 2024, and he was 79. And I say all the time, the reason I start this podcast is because there's just such a gap. People aren't talking about these things. People
Mhm.
aren't talking about this chapter of life. And we want this chapter of life. We want to have seniors in our life.
Yeah.
We don't not want this.
Yeah.
It's just can be really challenging too.
It's challenging. Yeah. But the caregivers that, you know, I think of where the parent lives in the house with them and the daughter looks after the father and changes them and feeds them. I mean, that's a real caregiver. And those are the people that I think and they still have their own job and their own kids. It is something that is a challenge. My situation has never been like that with my parents. My mom was, in a facility and she was well looked after, or my dad was still alive. My dad was still there to do his thing. So when they're the last parent though, it changes for sure.
Yeah. Why has it been important for you, and it sounds like your siblings too, Gerry, to be able to laugh through it, to be able to see to find some levity in the moments that could be, even when you say you heard your sister say dead check, not dad check, and that whole bit in Funny You Should Say That is really, really funny, but it's dark, sir.
Yeah.
It is some dark comedy.
I think that's my dad would probably laugh at that. Like he gets it. I think we were raised very Catholic, not that we're all practicing Catholics, but my dad, it was instilled in us and I believe it that when you die you go to heaven, and he was never, it was just we live and then we die and we go to heaven. So as a little kid I was always like, well, we're going to see each other in heaven. I think, believe it or not, that's what gets me through a lot of that is having that belief. I hope it's real, and that's how we were raised. It was like, this is a short time. And so to not laugh at it, it's a reality that we all face. Um, and I think that's from my mom and dad, just their beliefs and what they passed on to us. I had a funny joke in the special because my dad said to me, he said, you don't go to mass anymore. And I said, I haven't been, no. And I'm afraid to tell him still, like, you're always afraid of your dad. And he goes, your kids aren't going, your brother's not going, your sister's not going. He says, I'm the only one going. And that means I'm the only one going to heaven. That's his belief. He says, I won't see any of you when I die. So we'll stop going. You'll see all of us. And he laughed, and it's like, I said, stop going. We'll all be together in wherever you think that is. So he laughed,
There's one
but
answer, Dad.
he's a very, he can laugh at himself. And I think that's kind of what he always taught us and me, and self-deprecation and he would never let us get an ego, or we were always taught to laugh at ourselves. The Scottish sense of humor is, you got to be pretty thick-skinned.
That being said, I would think that your ability to find that answer for your dad, for example, and I'm glad he did laugh, but other things that you can find the funny in, I would think it could be maybe a blessing and a curse sometimes. Has it ever gotten you in trouble?
uh Not that I know of. Like, I'm pretty good at reading what he would be against. Like, you don't joke about religion to a degree with them. you don't joke about certain things that I know he really believes in. So I just know what I can and can't say. And, my dad loves humor where you're putting yourself down. That's just what he loves. Or you're putting someone else down. He loves, in Scotland we say taking the piss out of you. And that's a saying. He just loves taking the piss out of you, and you're raised on that. So I've never really, my brother and sister are just as quick-witted as I am and have just as good a sense of humor. I just explored it differently.
You explored it differently, and
I explored it as a career,
yeah,
but my dad was never a big fan of that either. Like, he's like, he used to say it's very vain to think you're funny. And so I never pursued it. That's why I was 30 when I tried it. Cause at 22, 23, I'm like, I'm thinking of trying stand up. My dad says, well, it's vain, a very vain characteristic to think you're funny. Whereas I just think funny is a gift you have, and it's a great gift to spread and share. And so I looked at it. I started to realize I've got to not listen to him on certain things. And, he's very proud of what I've done, but he wasn't a big advocator for this.
how did you reconcile that at 22, 23 when you were in or
It
going into a
just, you know what? He said it and I'm like, oh, that's probably true. And never. So there was 8 years before I tried it. I just started to go, he's wrong. Like, when you're, I knew I was funny, and even saying it now, it does feel kind of cocky to say, but I knew I was funny. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're good at tennis. You're good at science. I knew I was funny. It was a gift I was born with. My parents nurtured it. My siblings nurtured it, and I've turned it into something. He was, I think in hindsight, he would, be, my real name is Gerry Donahue, and he was always glad I never used my real name. Now he's like, you should go to your real name. Like, well, you can't switch. You can't switch, Dad. You gotta, you want to use your real name now because now people know who you are.
I think about this sometimes with my parents, in my chosen vocation, because nobody in my family did this,
Yeah.
and I wonder sometimes if some of that was trying to protect me. Do you think there was any of that, Jerry?
I think a lot of it is you don't want to be embarrassed. I don't know what it is about being cocky or arrogant or overconfident in my culture. Scottish culture is not, it doesn't go over well. I don't know what it is. It's just, even if I go to Scotland with nobody wants someone bragging. If you brag, they'll rip you apart. And I just think that's how we were raised. That could just be my family in Scotland. I don't know, but that's just the way it was.
So, and here you are now with a Netflix special, standing on stage, doing a live comedy special. Gerry Dee, funny you should say that. You have to have confidence to do that. So how did you plow through that, like what you've been told your whole life is right behavior, to then be able to stand on stage and have that belief that not only are you funny, but people are going to go with you on your funny?
Yeah, I think you just mature, and like I said, I was 30 when I finally started it. It's a lot older to start this career at 30. And like any kid, you realize your parents, what everything they say is not always the right answer. And I think I just disagreed. My dad didn't want me to golf when I was 12. My friend wanted me to go golfing, and my dad said no. He was a cop. My dad was a cop in Scotland, and a young girl was murdered on the golf course. So in his mind, I don't want you to go golfing because you could get murdered. I'm like, this is stupid. And I went, and I said, I'm going. And it was the first time I ever talked back to him. So the two biggest things in my life right now are golf and comedy. And he didn't want me to do either. So you learn that, and it doesn't mean, I know he loves me and he's proud of me, but sometimes your journey is different. And I think he would agree. I wish, one thing he did say to me when I did start eventually, he said, well, I wish there's things I did that I always talked about, never did. And he goes, you never want to look back on your life and wonder. And that was the moment where I went, okay, he knows I'm funny, but he doesn't think some of the stuff I do is funny. It's hard to explain. So he won't watch this special. He doesn't watch Mr. D. He doesn't watch Family Feud. We don't talk about it. He doesn't even know I have this coming up. I don't even bother telling him because there'll be too many questions. What did you do? What stuff did you do? I hope you're not doing that stupid Scottish act. Like, you just have too much critiquing to do. So I just don't tell him. I don't want him at the shows. He's been to one show. I feel bad for my mom. I should have brought her more because she loved all this, So, but yeah, it's just the way it is. It's just the way we have it. And,
Yeah.
we have a close relationship, but we don't talk about this.
You have a close relationship with the things you're close about, and I think that that is completely reasonable. I wanna bring up, you were so, so incredible in that Caremakers video.
Yes.
Um, that shift in tone that you do
Yeah.
from funny to serious. Can you talk a little bit, Gerry, about the support of that initiative and
Yeah, they brought me on as a person they wanted to use for their campaign. They know my dad's aging. I'm not his primary caregiver by any means. That was their idea on the creative. I thought it was brilliant to take a comedian. It looks like I'm going to be funny, and then you turn into the real moment. And that is, the one I did was, like I said, my dad wanted to go to Myrtle Beach. Um, it's not all true, but he's I'm sure he has times where he's wondering where my mom is, but I think he's aware that she's passed away. But he'll the other day he's like, "Where's my car? I left it downstairs." I'm like, "Your car?" He goes, "Yeah, like what happened to my car?" Dad, I said, "Dad, you haven't had a car in 20 years. What are you talking about? My car's somewhere in the garage." And I go, "Okay, well, let's go try to find it." And then he forgets, and we just don't go find the imaginary car.
it's been I mean, the response online has been incredible.
Yeah, it was. And I didn't expect that because I told him I don't want people thinking I'm at home, you know, looking after my dad 24/7 because I'm not. And I was very honest about that. You know, he's kind of looks after himself right now, which is that he can, but obviously there to support him whenever I can. But he doesn't want anyone showering him and doing all that stuff. He's just proud and he won't. So his mind is still pretty good. So we just let him make the decision still.
Why do you think keeping one's sense of humor through these things that can be so difficult is so crucial?
The other option's sad. That there's two options. You can be sad. There's no middle. It's either you're gonna sit and dwell on the sad, or you're gonna sit and dwell on the happy. And the happy for me is let's try to have funny. So I don't love the sad part of it all, and there's a lot of sadness, and I have sad moments with my kids growing up and moving out, my dad aging, my mom. We all have that, but I don't have a lot of humor about my mom being passed away. Like there's nothing funny there. But my dad's still with us, so I feel okay. And um, it's and 92 is different than 78 when my mom died. 92, I think people are kind of ready for it. They're expecting it. Like no one's like, "What? Your dad died?" Like that's nuts. I just saw him the other day. Like it's 92. So it's like when people post like a famous actress died at 98 and they're shocked. I'm like, what are you shocked about? Like she's 98. Like what? What? So sudden? It's not sudden. It's 98. It's probably 4 years too long. She probably wanted to go at 94.
You even say in the special, funny you should say that. I don't know how much longer I can use this line for
I
you.
don't know because I won't do that bit when he passes away, but there is, I think people can relate to having to check if your older parent living alone is okay. I mean alive.
Yeah. You've had such success. I've been lucky enough to be able to talk to you many, many times over the years, in different formats of my life and my career. And I thank you so much for your time here. This really means a
Oh,
ton
my
to me.
pleasure.
Um, a Netflix comedy special is a pretty big deal, Gerry Dee. Where does this rank for you?
Oh, number one. Yeah. Yeah, the sitcom was really special, but this is global. This is the whole world, and I'm sure, I'm sure when my dad realizes what it is, he'll probably think, "Well, that's pretty cool." But the fact that 190 or some countries are gonna have the opportunity, and I hope that some do, but to click on and watch it on Netflix is a pretty surreal feeling. Like I look back to day one of this, I'm like, no way I would have ever thought this. But in all honesty, I was always striving for this stuff. Like I never wanted to be second or third. I think that's just what my genetic makeup is, I always, people are like, wow, you're doing well. I'm like, am I? I'm not known anywhere. Like I'm not. So this is, to me, is a pinch me moment. But this is the biggest thing for any comic in the world to get, and to think that I have it really is unbelievable.
I love it for you. I really, really do.
Thank you.
You might not be able to walk to your shows anymore.
Yeah, I think I think I will. That's true story too. I walk in the front door. No big deal. I've been stopped.
I'm a Canadian celebrity.
I've been stopped. You need a ticket. Okay, well, to see myself, I need a ticket. And I love it. I love that. I love that I'm just a regular guy in my life. I'm just a dad and a husband that does jokes and tells stories. And I'll always see myself as that. That will never change. So,
It's just one of the many things that make you so charming. Thank you so
thank
very
you.
much.
Good luck with everything you're doing, and great to see you.
Nice to see you too, Gerry.
Bye.
Well, that was an awful lot of fun. It kind of reminded me of talking to movie stars and actors for like 30 years, albeit through a bit of a different lens. Highly recommend checking out Gerry's special, Funny You Should Say That. It is on Netflix as of today. Whenever you're listening to this, it actually dropped on Tuesday, November 18th. So thanks for listening. Wherever you are listening to us, whether it be Apple, Spotify, or another platform, do me a favor, rate the podcast, give a comment. We really appreciate that. And if you're finding us on social media, we are everywhere, from Instagram to TikTok to Facebook. And we even have a website, theheartofitall.ca. Those social media platforms are the Heart of It All Pod. And we love hearing from you, either in a DM or the comments you're making on posts. They warm my heart. Try to get back to every single one of them. And we love hearing your suggestions. What do you maybe need some help with? What would you like to hear about on The Heart of It All? We will do our best to satisfy each and every request. Thank you so much to my friends at 6 of 1 Digital who co-produce this podcast each and every week. They are Jess, Carroll, and Carrie Hayden. Podcast The Heart of It All was created, executive produced, and is hosted by me, Teri Hart. Thanks so much to Riverside for the music. We love that little ditty. And wherever you are in your day, your week, your month, please take care.